head-to-head here in round number 4.
Andrew Schneider, no stranger to success in Legacy with the Blue-Red Delver archetype. Multiple Legacy Open wins and a real expert with this deck.
So I'm excited to see it. Schneider, he does not have, True Name Nemesis in his main deck. You would think a blue-red deck, absolutely get True Name in there. He's got Delver, he's got Goblin Guide, he's got Snapcaster Mage, and he has 3 copies of Grim Lavamancer, as he's going to search out a basic island here, because he does have 2 of those, along with 2 basic mountains, a whole bunch of burn, a little bit of manipulation, and a few counter spells. That's how this deck works.
And Andrew has there's some blue-red Delver lists that have basically blue in the deck just for cantrips and maybe Force of Will. Andrew's going into much more of a hybrid build of the deck where he has Spell Pierce and Daze alongside Force of Will in the cantrips.
As far as Stephen Mann's deck list is concerned, it's very normalized at this point. 4 Delver, 4 Stoneforge, 2 copies of True Name, and a whole bunch of spells. Force of Will, Lightning Bolt, Brainstorm, Ponder. He's got a Singleton, Gataxian Probe, 4 copies of Spell Pierce. Sometimes that number fluctuates, but you see 4 here, along with a Jeté, a Battered Skull, 3 Swords, and 4 copies of Daze. He's got 20 lands, 4 of which are Wastelands, couple fetches, and we'll get to his Singletons and his sideboard when it's time. He's going to start with a Misty Rainforest on his second turn. He's going to go down to 19. Likely going to go get a Tundra, and we'll see what his turn 2 play is going to be.
And I definitely, defer to Andrew's expertise with the blue-red Delver archetype. It is actually kind of insane to me that the deck has not incorporated Gataxian Probe yet. You have Snapcaster Mage, you have Delver, so you have a huge incentive to add more spells. And I also think that Gataxian Probe is just busted. Should be in more Legacy decks.
Yep. I mean, the person that I associate Gataxian Probe to, and we see one right now, so we'll see exactly what the grip is here for Mr. Schneider, of 2 Snapcaster Mage, a Brainstorm. He's got 2 Snapcaster Mage, a Brainstorm, a Force Will, a Daze, a Ponder, and an Arid Mesa. But I think of Chris Pikula when I think of that. That was the first person I really saw playing Gataxian Probe, especially in his rug deck. I remember him having 3 copies when we were in Washington, D.C. doing coverage. I remember him going X-2 in that tournament, ready to walk out the door, and then hearing his name announced, not in 8th place, in 7th place.
Wow. And this was the inspiration, Chris Pikula's work on that rug deck was the inspiration for the rug list that Osip took to the second place of the Legacy Champs.
Mm-hmm. Those guys talk a lot about that deck and they got it situated.
Is Gataxian Probe good in the deck with Tarmogoyf and Nimble Mongoose? Yes.
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
Yes, it is.
Is information really valuable in a format like Legacy, where Daze and Pierce are cards? Yes. The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. The answer is yes. So you see, Stoneforge Mystic cannot be cast now from Stephen Mann. He would love to cast that, but now that he's got this information, he realizes, okay, I can't cast that. So Brainstorm is going to roll off the top here for Schneider. He wants to get things set up. There's an Arid Mesa, and now there is a Brainstorm to begin the turn. That's going to resolve. So an Arid Mesa, a Goblin Guide, and I believe that's a Delver of Secrets that is blacked out for him.
Yes.
I don't know because I've covered him before.
This is a really good Delver, or Brainstorm rather, for Andrew, as this deck can't sit on its heels all day long. It's got a lot of low impact cards relative to other decks in Legacy, so finding threats is really important.
Gonna have to turn up the heat.
Definitely can't play draw go with this deck. It's like Andrew debating what he's going to put back. I believe he already put back one of the Snapcasters.
Looks like he's going to put back a Ponder too. Rather have Brainstorm than Ponder. And going to sacrifice Arid Mesa. Go down to 18. No Stifles looming here for Mr. Mann. We'll see what land he wants to search out here. If he wants to get a Volcanic, and if he does, what creature does he want to play this turn? He's got a Delver, and he can play a Goblin Guide too.
I think it's likely that he's going to play Delver of Secrets into open mana, because it's so likely that his Goblin Guide gets killed that I would not want to be casting a Goblin Guide into a potential Plow, a potential Lightning Bolt, or even a potential Brainstorm.
So it will be Delver of Secrets that does show up. Going to pass the turn back. I can't imagine it making it through this turn. You see Mann is going to bring that Lightning Bolt to the forefront and target the Delver of Secrets with that. So, bye-bye Delver. And now Mann's going to draw a card. There's a backup Stoneforge Mystic, which might make it okay to cast the first one now.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to play Wasteland and then tap his 2 dual lands to cast Stoneforge, playing around Daze, and then probably use the Wasteland on the Volcanic.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit risky, and the only reason I say that is because if he plays the Wasteland first, and then he goes to cast Stoneforge, Schneider can actually just pick up his non-basic to daze it, which, yes, the Stoneforge will still resolve, but then he'll actually get to use the Volcanic Island the next turn.
Sure.
So,
But, you know, that's a pretty good exchange for, you know, if the game was going at a faster pace, that would be something to be concerned about. But with the pace of the game being really slow right now, no one's really under any pressure. I think you're happy to exchange cards that way.
okay. Force of Will going to be cast here on the Stoneforge Mystic. Mann does have a Force of Will of his own, along with a True Name Nemesis that he can fight over. He can use to fight over this counter war. But does he want to throw away those 2 cards just for this one Stoneforge when he has another one? I'd be surprised if he did.
I do agree with your initial play or your initial concern. If Steven was under a lot of pressure, if he was getting hit by Delvers and Goblin guys,
Sure.
that's definitely something to think about. But
Now, the big thing here is with how long Mann has waited, I think it's kind of a dead giveaway that I do have Force of Will. I'm just deciding if I want to cast it or not. And the answer is he does. So Force of Will is going to fight back against Force of Will, moving True Name Nemesis. So Mann only has 1 more of those left to draw, but he might not need it since Stoneforge is going to resolve and it's time to go searching for an equipment.
and I really like forcing back by Steven here. Andrew clearly cares about the Stoneforge if he's willing to force in the first place. And with Steven having a Wasteland to cut Andrew off of red, the number of outs that he has next turn to the Stoneforge is pretty low. He has to have a red source of mana plus some sort of bolt. And because Andrew was willing to Force of Will in the first place, it's unlikely that he already has an answer in hand to what's happening.
Yeah. So there is Batterskull. Now, interesting that he's going to search that out. Wasteland's going to take care of that Volcanic Island, because a lot of times we've seen that, especially when you're playing against Blue-Red Delver, and, you know, Stoneforge might not live, and Batterskull costs 5 mana. That's a lot of mana.
Well, in fairness, he might actually not know he's against Blue-Red Delver just yet. As far as he knows, it could actually be a Blue-White-Red deck,
That's true.
a Rug deck. He hasn't really seen any giveaways.
You see Schneider has found a couple cards here, a Delver, a Brainstorm, and a Chain Lightning off of this Brainstorm. Now he's got to put 2 back. The question is, what 2? Again, do you put back in this situation? He does have a fetch land to make it a perfect Brainstorm here. Looks like he's going to put back Goblin Guide and Daze. Those aren't going to be useful at this point. Going to sacrifice this Arid Mesa now. Go down to 16. We'll see if he's going to search out Basic Mountain or Volcanic Island. He will search out Basic Mountain. I got a feeling that a Chain Lightning going towards that Stoneforge Mystic in just a moment.
And now it's definitely a giveaway that it's Blue-Red Delver.
Yeah, if you are informed. I mean, this could be a blue-white-red deck with 1 Chain Lightning for who knows what reason. But yeah, if you are well informed on the format, then you know that a blue-red deck, especially with a Basic Island and a Basic Mountain with Chain Lightning, you're playing against a blue-red Delver deck. You need to be very cognizant of Price of Progress moving forward.
Andrew with 2 copies of Price of Progress in his main deck.
Starting with a Brainstorm, not a bad place to start.
Steven just not willing to walk into that daze there. Could have just played Stoneforge again, but says rather set up. Again, the edge that he has here is that he's just way up on cards because of Stoneforge and Andrew casting Force of Will and such, that he doesn't want to allow Andrew to trade 1 for 1, assuming that Steven's under no pressure to act.
Yeah.
Just try to win this game by outcarding Andrew over the long term.
So let's see what Steven Mann wants to do on this turn. There's a Force of Will. There's a Lightning Bolt. Batterskull is obviously in the grip. He could put Batterskull back and then play Fetch Land, shuffle those cards away, and then play Stoneforge Mystic to re-get the Batterskull. So much value. Or he might just want to save the Batterskull, which looks like he has done, and just use that second Stoneforge Mystic to search up Azumazawa Shite. The question is he scared of Daze or not?
Yeah, there's also a Bolt that he put away too, which is a pretty good card here.
So Mann is going to sacrifice Flooded Strand. We'll see what lands he wants to search out here. It's going to be a Tundra. So in the off chance that Schneider does have Wasteland in his deck, which, taking a look at his deck list, he does not.
The old Wasteland Price of Progress combo.
Yeah, not the best one. So that means the Volcanic Island is going to be safe for the duration of the game. He's going to sacrifice that Flooded Strand right away so he doesn't get stifled. Now here's a Delver that's going to show up for Schneider. Going to play that and just pass the turn back. There's the Swords. And this is one of the things that I really do like about the Blue Red Delver deck is it just has so much removal. You look at Rug Delver, they just have 4 bolts they lean on. Sometimes they have a 4th bolt or a Fire Ice or what have you, but most of the times we can say they've got 4 removal spells, sometimes 5. This deck has 7, sometimes 8 with swords and bolt.
And what you're seeing on the other end is one of my major critiques of Blue Red Delver as a deck is that you can go get an island and a mountain to play around Wasteland. But the deck is so color mana sensitive. There's so many 1-mana blue spells and 1-mana red spells that you're often inefficient if you have 2 basics. And you see this, Andrew's not able to cast a Brainstorm this turn because he had to spend a blue mana doing something else. And so you ideally want to get Volcanics because your deck is so color mana sensitive. But you often can't because you're playing around Wasteland.
There's a Spell Pierce to take care of a Brainstorm. Well, there's a Daze to take care of the Spell Pierce, so Daze is going to happen. Now we're going to do a little brainstorming. Chain Lightning, Scalding Tarn, and Lightning Bolt added to the grip. So a lot of burn here for Schneider. He has to, of course, put 2 back, and he did draw a fetch land, so he can make it a 3rd perfect brainstorm here.
And this is another reason why I like the idea of adding Gitaxian Probe to this deck as well, because you need to get to 3 mana to have Snapcaster Mage do anything, but this deck really wants to be shuffling away extra lands.
So there's a Tarn. There's a Chain Lightning. That's going to go away.
And Steven is really happy with all of these trades. I mean, he's just running Andrew out of cards. He's still at 15.
The big issue here for Schneider is now Mann is 1 land away from Batterskull, which is terrifying. Now, of course, there's the off chance that Mann maybe tries to play around Counter Magic, or he's scared of Daze, so when he draws the 5th land, he's like, I'm not casting this. But he's 1 land away from Batterskull. So for Schneider, if that does resolve, he's in a world of trouble. And he needs to really pick up the pace on this game now.
Yeah. And he needs to also draw pressure now, basically.
So Snyder's going to untap. He's going to take a draw. That is a Force Will. That's a very good draw in this situation. And now there is the 5th land for Mann. So will Mann actually run this out there? He's got Batterskull, Umezawa Shite, and a Tundra in his hand. So he can definitely cast a Batterskull, but we know it's going to get countered. And he wants to take a look at the graveyard to see, okay, what am I scared of in this situation?
I mean, Daze is obviously the worst card.
Yes.
Getting Force here is not ideal, but that's at least harder to play around in the first place. So.
For that event is $10 for 4 rounds of standard.
Steven also has to be mindful of Price of Progress, too.
I agree.
That's becoming close to a one-hit kill.
And especially when you're playing a deck that does have Snapcaster Mage, too. I mean, he's just going to play Umezawa Shite, and ooh.
That's a great play by Steven right there. I mean, the odds that gets forced, Andrew, of course, has to worry about that because if that it connects once, it's basically game over. And, yeah, that's just awesome. He actually gets to set the table to resolve his Batterskull now, which is what he wanted to resolve all
now, he's
the way.
obviously still scared of Daze, I think. But 2 cards, I would kind of want to just run it. I mean, it's so easy for me to say because I can see both players' hands, but given the information that he immediately Force of Willed that, I don't know, it just feels like there's some weakness over there. He's just going to pass the turn back and be patient and wait for another land. There's a Grim Lavamancer. Do not like the playing of that land. I will say that.
Yeah, now the cards that Steven is playing around has gone down so far.
I mean, he's obviously playing around Daze right now. There's a True Nemesis.
All right, well, we can just start here.
Yeah, we're going to cast that. That's a good step. Snyder going to draw a card. There's Grim Lavamancer going to pass the turn back. But with the way that Snyder's playing and his pace of play, it just leads me to believe he does not have a counter spell. And yeah, Wasteland's going to make it so that Mann doesn't have to play around Daze anymore. I think that's the only card that he actually cares about. I don't think he's playing around Spell Pierce in this situation. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him just play Batterskull here. Yeah, that's exactly what he's going to do. And so Germ Token will be incoming here. And now all of a sudden, Snyder is going to have to draw Price of Progress like right now.
I'm not a fan of the way Steven tapped that mana, though.
Me either. I think he needs to leave Wasteland up. Yeah.
I would have also been fine with just Wastelanding the Volcanic to pin him on mana, if you're not thinking about that.
Yeah.
But that could have been a disaster for Steven there.
Yeah. I think, the way he taps his mana, he has to leave Wasteland up to either kill his Volcanic, as you mentioned, or be able to Wasteland yourself so you don't get blown up by Price of Progress.
Either is fine. Andrew actually had Lightning Bolt in his hand, so if he drew Price that last turn, it would have been... Yeah, he would have just died.
Yeah. Either way, Steven Mann's going to come out of that one alive. Blue-White-Red Delver up a game over Andrew Schneider and Blue-Red Delver, 2 of the players on our leaderboard that we are featuring. And we're going to start the sideboard here with Schneider's deck list, and you're going to find a real spicer there. That's a 4 of.
1 Price of Progress, 1 Flush the Storm, 2 Sulfuric Vortex, 2 Smash the Smithereens, 2 Pyroblast, 3 Surgical Extractions, and 4 copies of Lava Spike. I believe he brings in Lava Spike in matchups where he doesn't want Force of Will,
Sure.
just to become more of a burn deck in those matchups. And he also has a lot of cards in his sideboard here that are potentially appropriate in fighting against Equipment and True Name Nemesis. I'm not sure how much of this stuff he's going to want. He has 2 copies of Sulfuric Vortex, 2 copies of Smash the Smithereens, and 2 copies of Pyroblast. All those provide some utility. He also probably wants to get the 3rd copy of Price of Progress in this deck as well. So I don't know how he's going to make room for all this. It's possible he just cuts all the blue permission, which is pretty bad in this matchup, I feel like, and becomes more of a burn deck.
On my side, I've got a Grim Lavamancer, I've got a Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Red Elemental Blast, a Pyroblast, a 3rd True Nemesis on the board, a 4th Swords to Plowshares on the board, to go along with the Sword of Feast and Famine, 1 Wear and Tear, 2 Rest in Peace, and 4 copies of Meddling Mage. So I think that Mann is under the idea, he has an idea of what he's playing against now. So as a result, I do like Grim Lavamancer in this matchup because it must be killed or it will kill everything of Schneider's. So that's going to come in. I like the, of course, additional copy of True Nemesis because it's True Name Nemesis.
It's a normal, it's a fair game of Magic, so
Yeah.
True Name Nemesis is totally unfair.
I want that in my deck. Red Elemental Blast ×2, 1 Pyroblast, countering the blue spells. Probably worth it. I mean, you look at the blue spells in Schneider's deck, Brainstorm Ponder, some counter magic, Delver's Secrets, Snapcaster Mage. I think those are all worth the old counter spell. Swords, certainly fine here as well. Don't really care for the rest of the cards. One card I'm interested to see that that Mann's not playing that we've seen in this deck over the past couple of weeks is Sword of Fire and Ice. And I actually like that more than Sword of Feast and Famine in this deck.
Well, they're for kind of different matchups. I think the more that your deck is able to control what's going on in the game, the more there's an argument for Sword of Feast and Famine. That's why I like it in Esper decks, because you can counter, your discard is being supplemented by a lot of counter spells and removal spells. In the matchups where you basically need to speed up your clock, but you can't control everything, how much does the discard really matter when you aren't really able to counter a lot of stuff and you just have a couple of Force of Wills and not really that much in the way of removal? Your opponent can discard their worst card and still resolve their best stuff. So I think Steven's deck, because it's more of an aggressive deck and doesn't have a lot of ways to stop everything from resolving, is more of a blue-red sword deck and less of a black-green sword deck.
Okay.
That's usually the way I think about it. The more that you can stop the other stuff from happening or resolving, the more the discard is valuable to you, because you can run your opponent out of resources.
Sure.
If you can't contain their best stuff anyway, then you want to speed the game up, and then you want the blue-red sword.
What if you just want to kill him? That's what I want to do. That's
War
what I
and
want to do
Peace.
to all my opponents, yeah.
Can't plow it,
War
can't,
and Peace, okay.
Can't plow it, can't bolt it, and
okay.
just take a million. Just truck on in.
What about Body and Mind? Can we get that into a deck? What's it going to take?
I think milling your opponent in Legacy is generally a pretty bad plan if it's not killing them that turn.
Well, what about the wolf? Oh! I just want a wolf token. See an Arid Mesa going to search out a mountain here. It might be time for a little Goblin Guide. Chump check you right in the face.
Yeah, I think Andrew in this matchup is just converted into a burn deck with some cantrips and Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, and you see Lava Spike in his hand too, so here we go. Yeah. Come and get some, baby. Trigger, how do we do? We did pretty good if you're Steven Mann. Yeah, he's coming for his face with the Goblin Guide. You see the spike in his hand, he's got a snap, he's got a bolt. Yeah, he's fully turned into a burn deck.
Although he does not have a second land, it appears.
Draw a card every turn.
That's true.
Yep.
And if it's not a land, it's a...
Spell.
It's a spell.
It's a spell. All right, Steven, you're under the gun right away. And Steven didn't see Goblin Guide last game. Don't forget that. As here's a Ponder. Up 2 more free points for the Goblin Guide. But Steven will probably draw a card off of this Ponder.
Yep.
He can set his deck up such that Goblin Guide will unfortunately reveal land.
He's going to put the land in the middle so it's on top when the Goblin Guide attacks. Now he has to discard because he has 8 in his hand.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that tricky Goblin Guide.
That's actually kind of the opposite of tricky.
Oh, that tricky Goblin.
The person that's making this tricky is Steven, actually. It's not Andrew.
So ignoring fetch lands, is this the best card from Lorwyn? Or sorry, excuse me, from Zendikar?
Ignoring fetch lands. I have to think about that some. It's definitely near the top of the list.
Bolt off the top, not a land as you mentioned. In, you can just put the land straight to your hand, Steven. I wouldn't even show him, I just draw a card.
Yeah.
Who are we kidding here?
You know the answer, come on, man.
Yeah, I kept with Ponder.
He said go?
Yeah, no spike. Just
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Also, this allows him to, if Steven if he plays a Snapcaster Mage, he can bolt it, and then if Steven has a Force of Will, untap and bolt again.
Sure.
So it's insurance against, some insurance against Snapcaster Mage.
There's a Delver. Pass the turn back, and we're going to see Ananda turn upstairs. Oh, he's going to kill the Delver. Wow. I thought he would just
No,
go.
I think he's confirmed. Steven assumed that he was
He's going
targeting
to kill
the
the
Delver.
Delver. He says, I'm going upstairs.
you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a burn deck now. See if he wants to kill Goblin Guy on the inside with the swords.
Yeah, he still has to, worry about Andrew drawing a blue source and then countering this plow, which would be disastrous.
Yep. So there is the swords. Schneider going to go up a little bit here. Schneider draws one fetch land. That works. So his fetch land was going to search for Volcanic.
Right.
So that's that's perfect. Because now he just gets to start firing away. Spike you.
And now the cat is out of the bag.
Yeah.
Andrew has become a burn deck.
Now, if you're familiar with Andrew Schneider, again, a player who plays in Atlanta, he has 2 Open Series wins. He's known for playing Blue-Red Delver. We did a deck tech with him that we're gonna air later today for you guys. That'll also be on the coverage page if you can't watch it when we air it. A lot of the spikes in his sideboard, it seems absolutely crazy. But he has always been transforming this Blue-Red Delver deck to do this.
Yes.
In sideboard games and catch people off guard. And this is not the first time this has worked, because if you're Steven Mann, you just gotta be, I'm at 10, he's got 4 cards in his hand. Oh, God.
Right. And the counter spells are, we saw in the first game, Andrew drew a bunch of counter spells, and they were pretty bad the way that first game played out. He wants those cards for combo matchups. Against decks that are just playing normal Magic, he wants just more burn.
What do we have here? This is a Stoneforge Mystic. That card is slow. It's a little slow.
Might not be that slow.
And there is a card that Schneider does have in his hand now that he has 2 lands, and it's Smash to Smithereens. So he's covered on the equipment front too.
Yes. Steven could really use a Force or some other card like that to push it through, in which case he'll be in the driver's seat, but...
So let's see here. Delver's going to come across for 3. Schneider's going to go down to 18. We're probably going to see an end of turn Bolt, because I don't know if he has any desire to try to play around a card like Daze at this point.
Well, he can't really afford to.
But he's not going to fire off that Bolt end of turn. Now here he draws a Misty Rainforest, which is actually a good draw for him.
I'm surprised he wasn't willing to use his Bolt there, because if it gets pierced or dazed, you'd actually be pretty stoked, because it opens up the window for your Smash to Smithereens to resolve on his equipment.
There's a Spell Pierce there, and this is exactly what she mentioned. However, I think because Mann feels like he's under the gun, I don't know if he can play the game in such a way that he can go, all right, attack, a little bit of patience here, instead of just going, put Jete into play with Stoneforge Mystic, and then play my land, equip Delver, and get in there. I don't know if he can play the game in that manner.
I mean, the Pierce gives him a little more flexibility to slow play this. He could try to just attack with Delver, sneak into the Battered Skull through Stoneforge Mystic, and at the end of Andrew's turn, and then try to untap and attack and protect himself with Pierce the whole way through. It depends how much time Steven believes he has left in the game. If he can allow Andrew another draw step and use of his mana one more time. Drawing the Pierce really changes a lot. Before this, Steven's hand was pretty much forced to try to put Jete on Insectile Aberration, and Andrew would pretty easily win the game from there. But now, the whole paradigm's changed.
All right, so in for 3. He's not going to try to shoot up the Insectile Aberration. Down to 15 goes Schneider. Going to pass the turn.
Yeah, and he's slow playing it like I thought he might here.
So Schneider's going to go down. He's going to search out an island. That might be risky instead of getting a Volcanic Island.
I think
Might need that other red source. Don't know.
At this point, I like playing the Snapcaster Mage.
I do too.
You get to advance your board a little bit. You might draw a piece of permission if you're targeting a Bolt.
I love Snapcaster Mage here too. It just really puts Mann in such a difficult situation here. Do I want you to have that 2-1? All right, you're going to target Bolt. This is going upstairs, and again, this just gives Mann another real decision to make. He could Spell Pierce this, but he chooses not to.
Yeah, he's only going to do something that threatens either lethal or his copy of Battered Skull.
Yep.
That's the only thing he's going to fight over here.
Now, this could get ugly.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew is assuming that this Smash to Smithereens is going to resolve here,
Yep.
but...
All right, here's a block. So this is going to be B Skull. Yeah. And he could have just put in Batter Skull right away, but he chose not to. Now, for Schneider, you have to tread a little bit carefully here because he wants to pull the trigger immediately. He wants to pull the trigger immediately on this Smash of Smithereens, but I'm not entirely sure that's correct. And that's what he's going to try to do. And this is where things are going to get bad for him. Because of the Spell Pierce.
Yeah. Steven has really set this up beautifully.
I think he's done a pretty nice job this game, too.
I think last turn a lot of players would have just tried to put Jite on their guy. And Steven found a much better line, and now...
Yeah, and now here's just, it's a back-breaking Spell Pierce.
The trap has been sprung.
Because now it almost forces Schneider, he's going to cast the Delver Secrets, it almost forces him now to draw Price of Progress or lose.
Yes.
That's almost the situation we're in here. Additionally, I think, again, that being an island could really come back to hurt him instead of being a volcanic island. Because I don't feel like we're in a situation where you can afford to play around Wasteland, especially when Mann discarded one. So it felt like to me, it's like, okay, I don't have any really much interest in Wasteland being a thing this game.
I think the bigger concern is not necessarily about Wasteland, but feeling the game might be going in such a way where his life total might be low enough that Price of Progress is a draw and not a kill.
Okay.
I think it's more about that. I agree. I would have probably, in Andrew's scenario, just gotten another Volcanic because you're so color mana sensitive, but...
Here's a draw. Yep, there's 3 bolts, and that's not going to do it. So Steven Mann is going to win this match over Andrew Schneider, 2-0. Blue-White-Red Delver is moving on over Blue-Red Delver. Mann, the Pro Tour Gatecrash top 8 competitor, he's 4-0.